Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. Our big focus this hour: Operation Sindoor has delivered justice for the 26 innocent lives lost in Pahalgam. 9 terror camps across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir were successfully destroyed by the Indian Armed Forces. And India has now made it clear that Pakistan will, of course, not be spared if it tries to send terrorists across to India and tries to attack our citizens. We've also made it clear that terror and talks will not go together. Joining us to discuss Operation Sindoor and its fallout is Ambassador Vikas Swarup, former diplomat and former spokesperson MEA. Thank you very much for being with us today on NewsX. How significant, according to you, is this change in India's doctrine and the fact that any terror attack is now an act of war?
I think this is a very, very significant change in India's posture. I think it is a very, very significant change in India's policy. Because now to say that we will not make any distinction between the terrorists and their proxy handlers back in Pakistan, I think is a very, very significant and very, very important shift in India's policy towards Pakistan. Henceforth, even a sub-conventional attack, meaning a terrorist attack, would invite a conventional response, which means in one fell swoop, we have raised the costs for Pakistan. Because you see, till now, for them, this proxy war through using terrorists was a very low-cost option. Now, suddenly, the costs have gone up for Pakistan.
Ambassador Swarup, what are your biggest takeaways of Operation Sindoor?
I think the biggest takeaway, of course, is, first of all, the manner in which our armed forces avenged what happened on the 22nd of April in Baisaran in Pahalgam. It was the most heinous, barbaric act we have seen on Indian soil in a very long period of time. You know, first of all, to segregate people on the basis of religion, then for them to prove their religion in the crudest way possible, and then to gun them down in front of their family members. I do not think any other terrorist attack would achieve the level of barbarity that this one did. And that is why I think it was very important that we avenge what happened in Pahalgam. And I think Operation Sindoor was the perfect response to that. We made it very clear from day one that our strike was only intended at the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan. It was not intended at the Pakistani military or the Pakistani society. It was intended solely and exclusively to take out the terrorist infrastructure. It was only when Pakistan decided to escalate that we also escalated. And as you know, we have severely damaged more than a dozen of their air bases. Many of the air assets have been taken out. And of course, more than 100 terrorists have paid the ultimate price for provoking India. So from that point of view, I think this was an unqualified success. But more importantly, it has drawn a line in the sand that henceforth, this will be the new strategic normal. As Prime Minister Modi said in his very powerful address to the nation just the other day, that terror and talks don't go together, terror and water don't go together, terror and trade don't go together. You know, all these things he has outlined, which in a way constitutes a new strategic doctrine for India as far as cross-border terrorism is concerned. So from that point of view, I think it really marks a totally new evolution of India's strategic policy. And I think Pakistan would be very, very worried at this new posture that we have adopted, because Prime Minister has even gone to the extent of saying that Operation Sindoor is not over yet. Operation Sindoor has just been kept in abeyance to see Pakistan's behavior. And if we see that Pakistan is not honoring the terms of the ceasefire, I think the punishment to Pakistan is going to.
Do you think pictures of state funerals coming in from Pakistan of terrorists are also proof that even the global community cannot now deny?
Absolutely. I think that is the clearest proof possible that there is no distinction between the Pakistani deep state and the Pakistani terror factories. The fact that these terrorists who were killed in our strike, they are being given a state funeral in the presence of senior officials of the Pakistani military, that their coffins are being draped in the colors of the Pakistani flag, I think is the clearest proof possible that there is a totally symbiotic and umbilical relationship between the Pakistani deep state and these terrorist outfits. Pakistan has been using them as an instrument of state policy for a very long period of time. And, till such time that Pakistan abjures the use of these proxies, till such time, I do not think we will have proper relationship between India and
Now, we sent dossiers after dossiers and now provided proof of Pakistan's terror activities to the world. Yet, why do you think the world seems to be reluctant in holding Pakistan accountable for harboring terrorists, Ambassador Swaroop?
Well, because I think, much of the world has taken on face value Pakistani's protestations that, they are themselves a victim of terrorism and that they have now abjured those policies which led them to this state in the first place. I think, much of the world tends to believe in that Pakistani propaganda. What we have shown to the world is that that is what it is. It is just pure propaganda. The Pakistani state has yet to sever its links with these terrorist entities. In fact, it has only deepened those links. And till such time as Pakistani deep state and these terrorist entities, there is a complete separation between them. And Pakistan actually shows us that they themselves are suffering at the hands of these terrorist entities. I do not think anyone will.
Yes. Also about the Indus Water Treaty now. That's still in abeyance. This is in line with Prime Minister Modi's message that blood and water will not flow together. The World Bank has also now made it clear, though, that it has no role beyond a facilitator. Do you believe that's a big setback for Pakistan?
I think this is the bigger setback to Pakistan, even more than the damage that our cruise missiles have caused by attacks on those 21 terror centers and 9 sites. Because the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty can create an existential threat for Pakistan. Let's not forget, 80% of their agriculture is dependent on waters of the Indus. 1/3 of their electricity is generated from the waters of the Indus. And now Prime Minister Modi has drawn a line in the sand. Blood and water will not go together. As I have said, water is life, but terror is death. And Pakistan now does not get to choose both of them. It has to make a choice. Either it wants life or it wants death. And I think the fact that despite the ceasefire, the IWT will continue to remain in abeyance till such time as Pakistan takes concrete and verifiable steps to dismantle the infrastructure of terrorism, I think is a very, very serious message that we have given to Pakistan. Because let's not forget, this treaty has been in existence since the 1960s. It survived 3 wars. It survived the 65 war. It survived the 71 war. It survived the 1999 Kargil war. But this time, because I think of what happened at Pahalgam, Prime Minister Modi was determined that henceforth, blood and water will not flow together. But also, let's not forget, even before Pahalgam, we had been telling Pakistan very clearly that, look, this treaty has outlived the parameters on which it was first founded. And we need to renegotiate it for the simple reason that climate change has now made the parameters on which this treaty was formed also quite difficult. And we had been asking Pakistan that we need to renegotiate the terms of the treaty. Pakistan, as usual, was dragging its feet, was refusing to do this, till we have now unilaterally declared that we are putting this treaty in the cold storage. So Pakistan, I think, will now need to take some very serious steps to address our concerns before the waters of the Indus can start flowing.
Yes. Finally, then, what is your message to the armed forces who've taken up this war on terror and given also a never-before-seen response to it?
No, obviously, I salute them, as I think does the entire nation. We are very grateful that we have such professional, committed, dedicated, and top-of-the-line armed forces. Because if you see the kind of damage that they have now caused to Pakistani military infrastructure, the Maxar images, the satellite images, which cannot be denied. If you see the before and after images, I think, we can be very proud, not only of the armed forces that we have, but also of the military equipment that we have, much of which is now made in India itself. I think the BrahMos missile in particular has proved to be the most potent weapon possible. So I think, hats off to the Indian armed forces.
All right, Ambassador Swaroop, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on that big story.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.